right with starting this thing, okay?
All right. Ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you going live to study?
You're online.
Thank you, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the microphone's on. Oh, yes it is. I just get really
You want me to
close.
turn it up?
It's fine. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the Board of Education meeting that is focused on a redistricting town hall. So if it's all right with the other board members, I would say let's, as this is a town hall, not do the pledge and all the things and jump straight into our discussion. And welcome our colleagues from and support from Research and Polling. And just to say that as a recap of where we are, I think we all know, but of course, every 10 years when a census is done, we need to, we are obliged by law to relook at our maps and redistrict our elected representation according to certain principles. And we are obliged to do it before the end of this calendar year. So obviously it's October 17th, and we have had 3 options presented to us previously, and we will need to adopt one of those options or an amended something, new maps before the end of the year. So with that, I will stop and we'll move into our presentation. Oh, well, but just to say this is our time, both to invite the community in and as, you know, I'm texting a little bit with Secretary Anderson this morning, that this is our time, even if nobody comes to, no, it's very helpful for me to think about it. This is our time to bring a little attention and intention back to this process, make sure that we are all thinking about it and being very deliberate as we adopt these new districts, which in some cases don't look hugely different, but they are somewhat different, and representation will change. And of course, once every 10 years, every elected body owes it to their constituents to do this well. So thank you all for being here and bringing this intention. And with that, Superintendent, do I hand it to you, or do we just jump into our presentation?
We can jump into our presentation, and we have it uploaded and ready. Cody and wants to switch out? Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll jump into an overview. High overview. It's not going to be the same presentation that you received initially, so it's just going to be as you guys were there, and then board member Abeta had a one-on-one with Research and Polling, so it's just going to be a brief overview, high-level points, probably look at the 3 maps, and then kind of have discussion around that. And then as we had noted, the plan is November to bring this back to that board meeting for vote.
And board members, the superintendent has volunteered to print anything if we need it. So we can just make that request anytime you want it.
This came out of the camera. I'm not sure if that is necessary.
Oh, Joe, did that little wire, this little wire?
I think it came out of, it may have come out of the camera, maybe. Great. Well, thank you very much. I'm Michael Sharp with Research and Polling. Thanks for having me here this evening at the Town Hall. And I guess what I'm going to do tonight is give you a really brief overview to go over just the principles really quick, and then maybe a 1 or 2 sentence description of each plan. And then from that point, I think it might be good to open it up to the board for questions and comments and suggestions that you may have for the various districts, and then we can take that feedback and potentially, come back to a future meeting with maybe some revisions. And I might be able to do some here while we sit here too. I'll kind of skip through. We're research and polling have a lot of experience, and that's basically what this slide says. And so we're just here to redraw all the boundaries such that in the end, every district has the same number of people or substantially equal population. It's based on the most recent census, in this case, the 2020 census, and it is required by law, and the statutes has to be done by the end of this year. Officially, it has to be done in the calendar year following the release of the census data. Data was released in 2021, so it's now your responsibility to do this in 2022. And these districts will take effect for the beginning with the elections in November of 23. So whichever district's up for in 23, those will run. And then the remaining districts will run under the new districts in 25. So we have 5 basic principles: equal population, minority voting rights, contiguity, compactness, and communities of interest. I like to think of the first 4 as the ones that are the legal or constitutional requirements. And then once you meet those requirements, you can use communities of interest to, I guess, shape the districts. Almost think of it like a picture frame. If you have a nice solid picture frame, then you can almost create whatever you want inside that picture or painting. Equal population for the Santa Fe Public Schools. Divide your district's population by the number of districts, and you get 25,619. So we're shooting for 25,619. The courts have said, though, we don't have to hit that number right on the dot. We can come in within plus or minus 5% such that they are substantially equal. And so for the the Santa Fe Public Schools, we just have to fall within a range of 24,390, 339, and 26,899. As long as we're within that range, then we're good. And the state statute even says you can't exceed that ideal population by more than plus or minus 5%. So we have to stay within that range. Voting strength, we just make sure that the minority voting group, and that term minority group is a phraseology from the 60s. We can also say communities of color, people of color as well. And within the school district, the primary group would be the Hispanic population, which is big enough and compact enough that you can create districts that are majority Hispanic. Though you have a sizable Native American population, it just isn't big enough to create. And it's important, but you can't create a district that's majority Native American. We have to just provide that opportunity. It doesn't mean that a member of a minority group will be elected. That's just opportunity has to be given. But we can't do so that race or ethnicity is the only reason why we do it. And so the district on the screen is an example of 91 when it was a racial gerrymander and the court struck it down. Then we go into contiguity. You have to have one piece. Each district has to be one piece, not 2 or more. And then with respect to compactness, it's the shape of the district and not necessarily its geographic size. So actually, the Santa Fe Public Schools, the districts are all actually decent sized geographically speaking. The ones that maybe cover the southern part of the district and the northern part are bigger just because there's some less population density within them. They have to expand a little bit further to get the population that they need. Then once you have meet those requirements, you can go into the neighborhoods. You can look at school locations. You can look at geographic boundaries, whether you want to use, say, the Santa Fe River or Agua Fria or Alameda as boundaries between districts. What sorts of things make sense when you're looking at the communities, kind of way I think about it. You can look at the existing districts and say, let's create districts that are close to what you have today. In the plans, we keep precincts intact, so we don't split any precincts. That's important for creating, a system that causes less confusion. So if you split precincts, that can cause confusion on the electoral process. It doesn't mean you can't, but we try to avoid it if we can. Then we can also take into account your school board member locations. So it's certainly acceptable to say, let's create a plan or plans that has one board member per district, the theory being that you were elected to the district, and let's give those voters a chance to elect you again. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but you certainly can as long as you meet the other criteria. See if there's anything else about that. And one of the things we're asked is attendance boundaries in board districts. And we can take them into account. We have been asked, okay, can you draw a plan that uses, say, APS wanted us 10 years ago to draw a plan that grouped, say, the high schools, using the high school attendance boundaries. And it wasn't possible, but it was, we tried to. And you could look at lower levels of geography, maybe elementary school attendance boundaries, mid-school. If you have different types of, K through 8 type schools, you can certainly take a look at those. Though the boundaries of the attendance areas don't really line up with the precincts very well. And so that's just one thing to consider. And so if we look at this, so it says under the current board district plan, parents of the children in schools assigned to board members may or may not live in the board member's district. So that just means the school location itself may be within a board member's district, but the kids who go to that school may come from multiple board districts. And that may or may not be important. You had a population change of 8% over the past 10 years. And how does that kind of impact the deviation? So on this map, it shows you one thing you have to do is District 3. That's the only one that exceeds that plus or minus 5% at almost 10% above. So we have to remove, say, 4%, 5% of that population. It has to affect at least one other district. And there's really no way about that. So we have to take a look at District 3 for sure, and how that impacts the others is kind of what we addressed in the 3 plans. The district itself is 43% Hispanic, and as I mentioned before, you can create Hispanic Native American districts. But I wanted to do, and this kind of gives you a distribution of that Hispanic population, very much the western side of the city of Santa Fe is primarily a majority Hispanic, and other parts of the Santa Fe are not. These are the current districts, and so we've kind of seen these before. What I like to do is kind of go into the percent Hispanic. It's kind of hard to see, but District 4 right now is at almost 67% adult Hispanic, and District 5 is at 49.9 adult Hispanic. So if you wanted 2 Hispanic districts, then we can, I think we have 2 plans, A and B, that actually create 2 Hispanic districts. And then, so I'd like to do is switch over to, so here's concept. I'm going to switch over to other program. I can go interactively if you'd like, or I can just go through the PDFs. So maybe what we'll do is go through the PDFs real quick and the images, and then we'll just open it to questions. And if we need to, we can zoom into the concepts and answer whatever questions you have. So concept A was what we call kind of a least change, or we'll call it the least change amongst the concepts. And we wanted to equalize the population, create, and while also retaining the 2 majority Hispanic voting age districts, and also we didn't pair any of the board members. And so it looks really similar to what you have today. Big picture, within the city of Santa Fe, the boundary does move. District 3 had to change. It lost population to District 5, where District 5 now follows Agua Fria and the Santa Fe River. And so kind of District 1 or 3 kind of came down below the river a little bit, and it just moved into District 5 and kind of straightened out that northern boundary of 5. That's really one of the bigger changes that we had, and then the boundary between 1 and 5 also got more vertical, got straighter as well. And then the District 4 boundary, where it kind of that intersection with Districts 4, 5, and 1, that District 4 now goes up to the Santa Fe River as well, because the precinct line changed. Precinct line used to be in Agua Fria, and that's where the current board member district is, boundary. And in this case, we just moved it up to Santa Fe River to follow the precinct line. So we have all these schools by district. I don't think we need to go into those unless you want to see them, but we can look at that on the maps. So concept B, big picture, was to keep neighborhoods in the city of Santa Fe together and try to maybe follow more major thoroughfares and features a little bit better. You also continue to have the 2 majority Hispanic adult districts. So in this case, the biggest, I guess, when I think of it, that area, I guess, south of Highway 599, around 599 and the Santa Fe River, south of Santa Fe River, between the river and airport, that was in District 3. Did it make sense for District 3 to go from Las Campanas and then cross the Santa Fe River down to airport? You know, that's one question that kind of we had, and I'll go to the previous slide here. And so District 4, basically it stopped at airport, and now it goes up to the Santa Fe River, and it creates this kind of clockwise rotation of districts. So District 4 goes up to the Santa Fe River, takes from 3. District 3 goes down to the Santa Fe River on the kind of northeastern side, and it rotates down, picks up population from 1, and District 1 scoots over to the west to Yucca Street. And then District 5 moves over to Cerrillos, south of Rodeo. So it's this clockwise rotation. So the population south of the river and airport, when it goes into 4, it just causes this ripple effect. And the trade-off really is that the area between Agua Fria and Alameda in kind of the central part of the city moves from, say, District 1 to District 3. So it's where does District 3 cross Alameda? Where does District 3 cross the Santa Fe River? Again, we have 2 majority adult Hispanic districts for B. Concept C was on the webpage with each board member, you have a bunch of schools that I guess to use the word that's on the page is represent. And so this was Concept C was an attempt to kind of put as many of those represented schools into each board member's district. And when doing so, we ended up with 1 majority adult Hispanic district and 2 majority minority districts. Again, we don't pair anybody. And so the reasons for some of the lines that look a little maybe not as compact is because we are trying to put schools into the district. So that one little precinct at the top, it's kind of 102. Let's see if you can see my little cursor. That kind of looks like that because that school is part of what's represented by 3, at least according to the website. And whether or not you still want to follow that model, you know, that's kind of up to the board. Or if there's a different model you want to look at, we certainly can. So District 2 crosses the freeway. The reason it does that is gets Desert Sage and brings it into 2. And then the reason for District 4 going all the way up to Siler is because it pulls in a school that's near Siler and brings it into District 4 according to that listing on the board member pages. So really that's kind of the reasons for why some of these districts look the way they do is to accommodate where those schools are located and where I guess which board members represent them. But again, I don't really know how the board feels about that concept or model of creating the district. And if you don't like it, then you certainly don't have to consider Concept C. You're certainly more than welcome to consider any concept that you like. And when we look at the population in red, the District 4 is at 70% adult Hispanic and District 5 is at 48. And the other majority minority district is District 3. It's kind of hard to see on that screen. But the adult Hispanic in District 3 is at 44%, but the adult white is 49.9. So you could say that it is majority minority because the adult white is less than 50%. You add up the Hispanic and Black and Native American, it's more than 50%.
Is that true of District 5 on that one as well?
So District 5, it is majority minority as well. It's at 43.5 adult white. And so we're kind of in this next steps right now. And we really don't have any members of the public here to provide feedback. But that's the opportunity is always good to provide that opportunity to the public. And of course, we're here for board feedback, and we can revise and discuss the plans as well. It just says adopt a plan in August or September, but we're past that. We can certainly go through December. And now we are at questions and comments. So if there are any comments, questions, suggestions, that's what I'm here for. Thank you.
questions, comments? Yes, Board Member Beta.
I'll start with comments. I guess I'll start with concept C. I don't really think that we need to necessarily put schools within the districts. I know my district, the early childhood center is considered a district school, and that line was drawn to incorporate that, but that really belongs to all of us, not just one specific if we're thinking that way. So I don't really care too much for concept C. I do like concept B. I like that it follows the Santa Fe River and does bring in like that school. Ramirez Thomas is already in 4, but also brings in Camino Real into 4 because it seems to make sense as far as that district. So if I was leaning towards one, it would be concept B because I like that river boundary seems to make sense for that side of town. Thank you, Madam President.
Well, I'll just follow up and say I'm inclined to agree with exactly what you just said. Concept C gets a little wacky to me. I like the river and some of the major thoroughfares and features map of concept B. And concept A seems okay too. We also had agreed as a board that shifting some representation was something that we wanted to do, in that Chaparral would be represented by District 5 and Desert Sage would be represented by District 2. Regardless, and we do have, I mean, there's just no way around, there's sort of a complicated analysis to be done here, in that, as you say, Board Member Abeyta, Nye is a district-wide school, and Desert Sage is a district-wide school. In many ways, our comprehensive high schools and ECO and even Mandela, these are district-wide schools, and so we certainly, as board members, need to be able to hold a few thoughts in our head at once, including both the representation that we're elected to do for constituents in our districts and the district as a whole. But that's okay, and it's happened for a long, long time. So I'm inclined to agree. I think what I might need, maybe not tonight, but at some point, is just that's a sort of printed close-up of existing and A and B, just to look at it, because it's really hard to figure out. I think you've got it in your head, Michael.
I do.
What moves, but I honestly can't track it going from one map to the other, especially when I'm trying to compare it to the existing map in my brain.
So, so just to clarify, if we created a map of, say, A and overlaid the current districts, and then created a map of B and did the same, is that, and kind of using the format that we already have over the PDFs, just add the current districts on there for concepts A and B? Would that be helpful?
Would it be possible to get, is my mic on? Can you hear me? I'm sure it's on, but it's on. Would there be any way to get like a map of the districts, like a full map, and have like lines outlining A and B and current, like in different colors in the boundaries? Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It does make sense, and it can be a little busy, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. If you think that would be helpful, we could do current in some sort of color or pattern, and then A and B in 2 different colors, orange and red, or blue and yellow, or whatever it happens to be. And if that's helpful, we can produce that. Or stripes.
Stars,
little hearts.
I mean, what we really need is transparency, is where we can overlay it or something.
That would be amazing. Ooh, that would be a lot of fun. And an overhead projector for.
There we go.
For using
An
those.
overhead projector.
I don't know if you can find those anymore.
I don't know. Do we have any? We probably voted on disposing of those.
That's right. Those were in the disposal.
If you could all get your Promethean boards for home, maybe? I don't know.
Were you,
Go ahead.
okay, thank you so much, Madam President. That was actually my first question. Can I see the difference of the southwestern boundary on map B? Or could you explain to me the difference of the southwestern boundary of District 5 on B and current? How that changes?
Yeah, see, you know them better than we do now, so you're gonna talk us through.
So here we go. I'm going to, current on the
Aha.
map are the dashed green and white lines.
Oh, see, that's helpful.
This is super helpful.
Okay. And then the major streets get labeled and we have the schools in there. If the schools are on there and they're too busy, I can remove them. But if that's helpful for you, I can leave them on.
Yeah, it's
Um,
helpful.
Then what I can do is, let me see if I can make them a little bit bigger. I know it's hard to see on that screen. Okay, so I'll call it the western part of
Okay,
5.
yeah.
And today, I'll just kind of zoom and I'll kind of go, I guess, north to south.
Sounds great.
And so
And this is, sorry, which concept?
this is
B.
B, correct.
Thank you.
So right now, 5 goes to Lopez Lane.
Right.
And then down to Cerrillos and over to Rodeo. And what 5 does in concept B is it goes across Lopez and then up to the Santa Fe River. So this, what I'll do is I'll kind of highlight in red the new areas to 5.
Okay.
So 5, this is Lopez here, and this is like it's open space. It's a narrow strip of open space.
Yeah.
And that's what that line is. And then it goes up to Rufina. And again, this might be some more open space on the, maybe that's Jemez. That's Jemez.
Okay.
So Rufina to Jemez, and then
Okay.
up to Agua Fria and up to the river.
Okay.
So this area is new to 5.
Okay.
And then south of Rodeo, it basically takes everything south of Rodeo and west of Richards.
Okay.
So between Richards and Cerrillos, south of Rodeo goes into 5 from 4.
Okay. And I think most of, Superintendent, you probably know better than I do, but that's Nava Ade, right? The part that we're looking at there, or no, Nava Ade is to the east of. Nava Ade. I'm thinking about the neighborhood that's there, but I'm wondering if that portion is zoned for Pinon, or if it's zoned for another school. Anyway, if it's zoned for Pinon, that's great because, you know, that's located in the district, and like it would be cool for the parents of, you know, Pinon students to be able to vote for someone there. I don't know. I'm conflating two
There's
things,
a lot
but
of new development there.
yeah.
That is Nava.
And Las Solares, yeah, by the by Presbyterian. Yeah, and oh yeah, they might be for Nina. Yeah, there is a lot of development happening over there.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Another question I had, is it possible to look at the percentage of Native Americans in each plan? The A and B, because I agree with the C is like wonky.
Sure. I'm just going to flip through the tables I have in the
Yeah,
presentation real quick.
Perfect.
So with respect to, so the Santa Fe Public Schools is 1.4% Native American.
Okay,
And so it's roughly that middle column.
okay,
And then the district with the greatest percent Native American in adult is about 2%. That's District 5. And then the lowest is 0.9% adult Native American in District 1.
okay. Oh, but this is concept C, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Ariel, let's start over again. 1.4 is the same for district-wide. But District 5 still has the greatest percent at 1.5 at 379 adult.
Okay,
And District 1 still has the smallest Native American population at 1.2%.
okay. And what about for concept A?
And then concept A, roughly the same. District
Okay.
5 is 0.1, as a little bit bigger, and District 1 is a little bit smaller than B.
I know it's a small percentage across the board. I just was interested to know how that broke out in the districts. I wonder, I know it's difficult for us to have people who attend, like, there's no way to break it down by school district, like, that's just a totally different, like, set of criteria. But I wonder I think we should redo who's representing which school. We talked about that, you know, with Chaparral moving and Desert Sage moving. But I wonder if it's possible to think about, like, where the majority of voters are in that district. Like, if the majority of voters are zoned for Pinon, do we give that that's too much. I'm way overthinking this. I rescind everything I just said. I know sometimes I've had friends go to the polls and think they're going to vote for you, but they're voting for Carmen, you know?
There's also a confusing thing in that I'm in District 1 for school board, but I'm in District 2 for city council.
Right.
Oh, yeah, start trying to make that make sense.
That's never going to happen, yeah.
So people get very confused, and that's, I think, part of the confusion in going and voting.
Yeah. We'll let the League of Women Voters sort that problem out. What are the big differences between concepts A and B?
Okay, so I have B on the screen right now. And let me think about,
Can you show us A with the green and white lines as well?
let's see here.
Helpful there.
This is such a cool program. Like, I'm loving all the data and the visualization. This is so cool.
It'd be easier for me if it were right here, though.
Okay, so if this makes sense to me, but if in some ways we can certainly, I can try to bring on just the boundaries to the other one, but this shows the difference between A and B, and the number inside tells you that area, for example, the southern part of District 5, so in purple, and that tells you that this area here in District A, in Concept A, is in District 4. So this shows you the difference. This area in red is in District 4 in Concept A, but it's in District 5 in Concept B. And so I can zoom around. So again, this area is in District 4 in Concept A, but it's in 5. I'll go around if you like, and I can show you. And so, the key here, actually, the beginning point was the area between the Santa Fe River and Airport, and that was kind of my first thought was, well, this area is divided. It's part of District 3, and what happens if you put it into District 4? Does it make sense to put both sides of Airport into a single district as much as possible? Or, at least in this case. And so District 4 takes all of that area between the river down to Airport, and there again, there's that kind of, I think that's Jemez. Yeah, that's Jemez on the right, on the east. So the area used to be in 3. It currently is in 3, I should say. In Concept B, it's in 4. And then if we go to so 3 lost a lot of population. There's a ton of people in there. It's densely populated, a lot of people. And so that actually took 3 and made it too small, so we had to add people to 3. And so what happened with District 3 is it took population from a number of different districts. It took population from District 5 between the river and Agua Fria, and that's Siler over to, I think it's Camino Alire. And so that area moves from 5 into 3. And then there's some area that used to be in District 1, or currently is, and that area moves to, that's Camino Alire and between Alameda and, Free, I think.
Yep.
So that area goes from District 1 to District 3.
I don't want to interrupt you, but is that in both concept A and B, or no, it's just in concept A versus, I'm slightly confused.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine. No, it's fine. I can also throw on just A as a boundary, but I
Okay.
just wanted to go through here and then we can throw an A.
Okay, makes
And,
sense.
So this area was in District 1, and now it's in District 3. In concept, this is concept B. In concept A, it's in 1. And then in concept A, this whole area north of Alameda and the river is in District 1. And so you have both now, because Hyde Park was the boundary between 1 and 3. So now both sides of Hyde Park Road are in District 3. They used to be in District 1. And then District 1, it became too small, so it had to add population. And so it took this area, here's Osage, down to St. Michael's, and these precincts now go into District 1 from District 5. So it's this clockwise rotation. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and bring on concept A.
Sorry, is that in both A and B that it takes from District 5, or that was just in concept A?
So let me, if I may,
Or B, sorry. That's the one that moves clockwise.
let me pick a different color. Red. Okay, there's a million lines on here. So I'll toggle them on and off. So in red is concept A.
And the colors are concept B.
And the colors are concept B.
I'm having trouble distinguishing a little bit between 1 and 5 colors, but I think.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I can. Let's see, change 5.
That's great. Okay, so say it again. The
That's-
lines are A, the
The-
colors are B.
Correct. Red and white lines are A. So you can kind of see that description that I gave earlier, how 4 goes up into 3. Here, oops, it's these guys. 3 adds these 3 precincts. 5 precincts also adds south of Hyde Park Road. 1 adds these areas over to Osage and St. Michael's.
That's Osage on the western boundary of what you just,
Correct. I'll
Yeah.
go ahead and zoom in real quick so you can see it too. And I think that's Llano.
which does, yeah,
Right.
That does segment
that
Pueblo
neighborhood.
Alegre, yeah.
And then we talked about Cerrillos. So 5 moves between west from Richards over to Cerrillos, south of Rodeo. And then we mentioned about south of the river, moving west roughly between the river and Rufina.
Just as a note, Vice President Bosé texted me that she is watching online, so just, she's tuning in.
If she has any questions, she can send them too.
I'm leaning towards concept B, and I can't totally articulate why, but it seems to make a lot of sense to me. Is that the one, Board Member Abeta, that you were leaning towards? Yeah, those boundaries seem to make a lot of sense to me. And I don't know why I'm shocked. I would have assumed that District 4 would have had the biggest increase in population. That's interesting that it was the north that had such an increase. I mean, I'm sure it's no surprise to you, but it's interesting to me.
If you look at where the developments happened, yeah, there's been a lot that's added in that El Camino area, that immediate area surrounding El Camino Real. And those certainly sort of follow some logical lines.
So District 2 is at negative 4% deviation, and it's within the plus or minus 5%. If that's one of those things where we look at, we have heard from, elected officials or representatives in different governing bodies that they like to see the deviations closer to 0, and they kind of see, well, geez, negative 4 is kind of too close to negative 5, or plus 4 is too close to plus 5. And have asked us, well, can you, create a plan that narrows that band a little bit, almost narrows that range to plus or minus 3 or plus or minus 2. The trick here, I think, is balancing the deviations with, say, communities of interest. If you want to add more population to District 2, where is that population going to come from? What are your options? And so when you look at, say, District 2 and District 1, the boundary is the freeway starting at the county line. And do you want to go into La Cienega? Do you want to go, south of Tierra Contenta, between 599 and Cerrillos? Do you want to pick up Presbyterian Hospital area and all that new developments is potentially going in there now? I think there's a ton going in there. And do you go up towards Desert Sage? I think Desert Sage is in the northern precinct here that I'm kind of toggling on and off. Do you go further into, this is Arroyo Hondo, I think. And so you cross the Arroyo to add into District 2, to add population to 2, so it's not quite at negative 4. Those are all, that's you certainly can. That's the prerogative of the board and how important that is to you. And in my case, it's, you look at all those communities of interest and the guidelines, and that kind of falls in my mind within a community of interest. This plan meets the legal requirements, and now what things make kind of sense to you in terms of kind of fine tuning.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me, to keep those communities together rather than hopping over a boundary. And
the point that, sorry,
no,
but the point that there is actually a lot of development happening in District 2.
Yeah. We have the fewest number of schools in District 2, which is, neither here nor there, but is interesting. I know a lot of that population is relatively rural, with the exception of Rancho Viejo.
Well, there's actually a lot of development, maybe in District 5 there, that whole area between Cerrillos and the freeway. That's building out fast. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Right, and when we did the city, I think they were almost all the growth, at least within the city Santa Fe city limits, are going to be south of Rodeo, both sides of Cerritos, and so that area south of Jaguar, south of the Royal, west of the high school. There's, I guess, discussion. I don't know how concrete it is in terms of new development going in there.
Where do the students in La Cienega go to school? Do you know? Nina. Okay. Yeah. Ortiz. Yeah.
There's even some that, again, we have a very flexible transfer policy, so you'll see them, in Amyville.
Yeah. I like B.
I like B.
As much as you can love a redistricting map if it's not your profession. I'm sure you
Every plan is beautiful in my eyes.
I
How's that?
believe it. Sorry, go ahead.
Keep going.
What are the differences? I know these are based on voting age populations. What are the differences in including under 18 between Plan A and Plan B within each of the districts?
So just to clarify, to make sure, when we're creating districts, they have to be equal population total pop, and then when we're looking at ethnicity and voting rights, that's when we switch over to adult population. But you were looking. I'm sorry. You wanted to look at.
Nope, that answered my question.
Okay.
Sorry, I like data, so I wish I had more of a question, but that was just my
Well,
question.
you can get an under 18 population by looking at, well, no.
You can get a rough estimate, like for example, District 1, if you just subtract the adult pop from the total pop.
Yeah.
So District 1 has 2,900 less than 18, under 18, and that's rough. And then District 4 has about 6,400
Wow.
under 18. So it's a interesting dynamic. Any, right, I think 2 has about 3,400 and 3 has about 4,400 under 18.
And sorry, what did you say District 5 has? I was reading a text from Vice President Bose.
About 4,200
Okay,
less than 18.
okay. Vice President Bose says she also likes B. That's a big difference between our districts and under 18 population from top to bottom. It's hard when you feel like one voter has a little more, represents the voices of a few more kids than another one. Does that make sense?
If turnout were perfect.
I know. If turnout were perfect. Yeah, exactly. We'll work on voter turnout campaign.
And this, by the way, this was for concept A. I didn't know if I specified that.
Okay.
Well, can
But I
we
can-
Yeah,
look
can we
at
look at B's?
concept B?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Since
sorry.
we're gravitating.
But I'll go ahead and list them out. Just off the top of my head, for District 1, 2,300 under 18. For District 2, 3,400 District 3, 3,000. District 4, 6,600. I think I did that right. And District 5, 5,000.
There's nothing we can do about those differences, but they sure do exist. I don't know how much we'll have to talk about at our meeting where we pass the final redistricting. I feel like we've gotten a lot of good questions out.
I feel if we don't have to talk about it much, then, you know, we've done our work ahead of that vote, of the vote, so.
Could even list it at the next one in October.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't have to wait till November.
Might be a good idea, just because I think we're ready. ¿Qué más? If you would, Superintendent, it's not the worst idea to send the presentation out, so any of us who wants to crunch numbers, look at, yeah, populations, potential development patterns, that's the layer I'm trying to put on now, is like where the development happens, because this, so 2 questions. Can a board redistrict, this is partly just intellectual, but we have to do it every 10 years after a census. Can we do it? Could a board do it in between?
Madam President, I don't believe the statutes allow it.
Okay.
I think they say once following each decennial census.
Okay, so hence my original concept holds, which is this needs to, ideally, it will be in place for 10 years.
Unless you merged with Powake or
Okay, yeah.
Or you already
something-
Edgewood.
Something wild.
yeah.
And none of the concepts, or let's just say neither concept A nor B, splits precincts, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Do either of A or B split precincts? And the answer is no. There are no split precincts in concept A or B.
Madam President, your intellectual exercise and just thinking about potential development doesn't affect, won't affect, right, obviously, our redistricting, but it does bring up for me the idea of rezoning. And when we visit that as a board, you know, thinking about new development and who's going to what school and those kinds of things, which is not the process of redistricting, as Cody has done an excellent job of convincing everyone, or else we'd have a full house tonight.
Yes, and Vice President Bose has
yeah.
been very good on that in her
Yes.
work as our spokesperson.
Yes, absolutely. But it does make me think about that. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, unless we wanted to get radical and get rid of zones or, you know, other things, but
It's all right. I did it.
reimagine.
Yeah, I did it because I was trying to find. All right. Okay. Where's my little guy? Need new glasses. Okay.
Was there something else you wanted to show us? or-
You bet, Madam President. So I don't know if you can see this very well, but
Oh, my goodness. Is that in our packet? Can we get that map too?
so when I was talking about the city of Santa Fe, when we were doing the redistricting, they provided this map. It might even be on the city's website somewhere about, I guess, development pipeline is what they call it. So you can kind of see in the number of units and whether they're single-family homes, multi-unit, and what I can do is, I believe, I can even do something like that. Right. And let's see, I think the hospital is kind of down here. But it'll say, if it just says units, that's say multifamily, say apartments, and the SFH, I believe, is single family homes. And you can kind of get an idea of just by looking at the colors, where that development. Yeah, I didn't mean to do that, but anyway, if you double tap control, it'll show you where your cursor is. At least on my system. But you can definitely see just by looking at the colors and the parcels where the colors are, where the development is going to happen, and the scale of development. So it doesn't tell you anything that's going on south of the freeway because that's not part of the city's jurisdiction. But at least within the city, you can kind of see what's going on. All right, so what I'll do is I will go ahead and forward this, and then that can be distributed to the board.
The blank space of Agua Fria Village.
And for me, Madam President, that's really all that I have to show. So if there are any other questions, I'm certainly more than welcome to answer them as well.
Well, thank you for navigating so many maps, colors, and lines for us. That was really helpful. Other questions, thoughts? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. I think we're good. We are together again next week. Because Oaxaca. All right. Well, I don't know if there was anything else on our agenda. I'm pretty sure not, right? In which case, look, I'll use the hammer.
Hooray.
Thank you.